Wild West, and I have no idea what this chapter is referring to, whether it's going to refer to the next few seasons, so an example from BB3 to BB7, or if it's going to refer to the bigger zeitgeist of reality TV in the early 2000s. So I'm going to read a quote from John Coyle, who is the executive producer, and it says from Big Brother 2 dash, so I'm assuming from Big Brother 2 to present, or just solely Big Brother 2. So that's kind of confusing. When you get the book and you see how it looks, you'll see why I can be confused or why I am confused. Anyways, reality TV in the beginning was the feeling that anything could happen, good or bad. When you walked into Big Brother, you walked in not knowing what contestants would say or do in a way that was unlike anything else on television. It was the Wild West. So that's the quote, and now we're moving on. And you definitely have that feeling once you watch a lot of the older seasons, or even just older iterations of reality TV, where things that were said then would not be said now. They were a lot more raw, they were a lot more authentic, there was a lot less, how do I say it? Uh, respectability politics. That's the best way, or best phrase I could use. By 2002, reality TV is experiencing a meteoric rise in popularity. This year sees the debut of groundbreaking series like The Osbournes, American Idol, and The Bachelor. Yet, despite the genre's growth, there remains a sense of novelty that empowers creators to push boundaries and take creative risks. The earliest seasons of Big Brother embody the spirit of innovation, with a willingness to venture into uncharted territory. This approach results in compelling, outrageous, and unpredictable summer programming. Following the success of Big Brother 2, Shapiro and Guana received an offer to begin producing reality content exclusively for ABC. It's an enticing proposal, but the duo decide to remain loyal to CBS and return for a third season of Big Brother. Allison gradually assumes more day-to-day control over the series, while Arnold recedes into a supervisory role. And we would see how controversial this has been in the fanbase over the last 2 decades. Big Brother's content isn't especially motivating for him. I told Allison that I wasn't going to stay with the show forever because it was not the kind of television that I wanted to do, explains Shapiro. I didn't see the inherent value in terms of improving people's lives. His continued association with the show, however, allows his relatively unknown protege to establish her own credibility at the network. Assuming the show continues to be a success, Garner is its heir apparent. So it seems like Shapiro never really had intentions to stay around, and while the sociological stuff of Big Brother interested him, it didn't really bring a big conversation as to how this could improve people's lives. So I see his dilemma with this. Big Brother 3 premiered on July 9th, 2002, with yet another electric cast including a 25-year-old virgin from Alabama, clearly referring to Jason, a Manhattan party girl, clearly referring to Kiara, and a budding and portly 51-year-old school teacher, clearly referring to Jerry. Similar to the last season, one finalist, Rob's sister Nino, finds himself swapped from the roster and placed on Survivor the Amazon. Everyone knows about the story of Rob being cast for Big Brother 3, then being moved over to Survivor the Amazon. That has been well publicized, but obviously the Clarence stuff wasn't, which we discussed 2 chapters prior. Big Brother 3's cast is assembled by Robin Cast, whose casting career began in 1996 on USA Network's The Big Date, a series produced by BB2's casting director Jackie Pittman. Oh wow, so I didn't even know that Robin didn't cast Big Brother 2. But after reading those 2 chapters, it makes sense because she was never mentioned. Pittman signed onto Big Brother knowing she could only do Big Brother 2. My boss, Howard Schultz, was waving executive producer in front of my head. She recounts with a laugh. Pittman will join Schultz to launch the original Extreme Makeover series for ABC. She'll also go on to create MTV's iconic dating show Next, based on her own dating life. During Big Brother 2, Pittman advises Cass to immerse herself in every aspect of the show and absorb as much knowledge as possible. She's setting Cass up to take over the series upon her departure. So it's interesting how this even ties into Robin's journey and how she was observing even from BB2, despite her not really casting for that season. This advice works, and Robin is brought aboard as the new casting chief, a role she will hold from 2002 to 2020. And we all know how she was kind of scapegoated in the faultings of the later teens seasons regarding the casting before the diversity quota came into play. But that's another story for another day. Season 3 sees the return of most of the creative team, who continue to innovate and refine production techniques. During Big Brother 2, story editors found it challenging to focus on the dozens of control room monitors, therefore thwarting their ability to track house guests and build a story. Senior story editor John Platt makes pivotal discovery, realizing that auditory cues provide quicker insights than visual ones. Forget looking, just listen, he says. Platt imparts the majority of the house chatter is unrelated to the game and sounds very level and monotone. Adopting a new approach, story editors begin following house guests using headset audio, focusing on changes in intonation to identify significant moments. You hear a shout. Go for it, Platt says enthusiastically. You hear a whisper. Go to that over a shout. He emphasizes the value of whispers as they often indicate the best story, and you definitely kind of see this once you rewatch Big Brother 3. Once potential storyline is identified, the story team directs the camera crew to capture that footage. Despite the abundance of household cameras, only 4 to 6 streams are being recorded at any given time, which I find interesting. But I guess that shows how the feed works, since when you're on the feed, you only see 4 lenses in the camera, though we all know that there are hundreds. And that's the footage that they use for the show and the episodes. Therefore, seamless communication between the story team and camera crew is necessary to make sure critical moments are captured effectively. Season 3 sees increased cohesion amongst the story team of each weekly episode, and you can definitely tell that. In season 2, each team was trying to outdo each other, Platt recalls. We were each trying to make a show that was better than the other 2 shows. By working together as one unit, the series begins to feel smoother and more consistent, and you can definitely tell. Platt was a part of BB2's Tuesday team, which consistently scored stellar ratings. Guarnas approaches him to start a class for new hires during Big Brother 3's rehearsal week. He calls it the Zen of Storytelling. It's a crash course on how to collect content efficiently and calmly. Platt reveals it's not uncommon for new hirees to quit during rehearsals because of the intimidating nature of Big Brother's technical setup. It's like learning how to fly a jet in 2 weeks, he says. The master control room is full of high-tech equipment with scores of buttons, controls, and monitors. When collecting content for broadcast, Big Brother 3 producer Amy Chacon notes the importance of feature stories and adding depth and humanity to the series. And you definitely feel that, especially with this season, and it's not something that's very common nowadays in more recent seasons. While not necessarily linked to gameplay, these stories aid in character development by offering valuable insights into the thoughts and personalities of house guests. Early on into BB3, Chacon observes Marcellus, a 31-year-old fashion designer, exhibiting signs of melancholy. Concerned, she calls him into the dining room to uncover the source of his apparent distress. Marcellus reveals in complete seriousness that his sadness stems from his housemate's clothing choices. Oh, yes! I remember this piece. I remember this diary room session too, and it's brilliant. Anyways, back to the story. What began as a somber conversation transforms into a lively and animated 2-hour diary room session where Marcellus passionately critiques his favorite contestants or his fellow contestants' attire. If you knew how to do it, you could really draw these people out, says Shirkan, and get at observations that you could then develop into really interesting feature pieces. This candid exchange featured in a primetime broadcast showcasing Marcellus railing at Lori's denim romper and fizzy pink tank top and Tanya's hairstyle and teeth bleaching. BB3 sees a new format device that leads to the cleaner, more consistent programming. The Power of Veto, POV, is a weekly competition that allows the winner to upset the balance of power by altering the head of household's nominations. Developed by executive producer Rich Meehan, the POV is created because of the Tuesday show's lack of structure in season 2. And you definitely feel that once you rewatch the second episode of the weekly BB2 timeframe. It was great to have that show, but darn it was hard, says Platt. The POV is used only once during the BB3. However, as the series evolves and contestants begin to realize its utility, the veto will mix up the game and add plenty of drama to the series. Big Brother 3 sees a strong alliance emerge between Jason, the white virgin from Alabama, and Danielle, the black mother of 2 from California. This unlikely duo is bound by a shared Christian faith. Together, they pioneer a new strategy: the Secret Alliance. Unlike last season's bombastic showdown, And honestly, you could even say Nicole and Hardy, though the book doesn't mention them. Danielle and Jason conceal their alliance from the entire house, and it takes them all the way to day 78, becoming two of the final three house guests. Evicted house guests are sent home in season 2 and 3, allowing them to watch the edited broadcast, talk to family and friends, and read online commentary before casting their votes for a winner at finale night. Therefore, it's hardly coincidental that the winners of both those seasons are fan favorites. Naturally, evicted house guests want to be in lockstep with the public opinion. In season 3, runner-up Danielle, criticized by housemates for her perceived dirty gameplay, receives only 1 out of possible 11 votes to win. A similar fate befalls BB2's Nicole, who faces harsh criticisms from viewers during her time on the show. Producers recognize this as a problem and resolve to fix it. Okay, so here's some of my more commentary. As we all know, Big Brother is an edited show, and like the audience, the producers and the executives have their favorites. So it is easy for them to give their favorites better and stronger edits. So if they have their favorites and they're doing well to win, and when it comes to the final jury vote, they can influence the audience opinion of these players based on the edit, especially the casuals, which is a large portion of the audience. And if the house guests who are evicted go home to see this perception, it could cause them to want to vote for one of the two finalists that are heavily favored. So while it is different from the format of Big Brother 1 when it comes to rewarding the winner, it definitely has some similarities with rewarding the fan favorite in general. And you definitely saw this with Nicole and Danielle, who both played more dominant games, ended up losing. And even in the Big Brother 3 house, they talked about not wanting a Will and Nicole end, or even to play like Hardy. So they didn't like that villainous taint, and it continued up to Big Brother 3, where that perception played heavily into Lisa's favor. A jury house was created in season 4, and it was introduced there. We wanted Big Brother to be a game where a villainous or sneaky player could win as easily as the nicest person in the house, says Platt. Evicted house guests are henceforth sequestered with limited access to program footage. They are only provided tapes of scenes that involve everybody, i.e., no diary room confessionals, scheming, or plotting. For Nicole and Danielle, this measure comes too little, too late, but it does allow new styles of gameplay to blossom. And honestly, I think one of the reasons why they did this is because when people are in the diary room, they want the house guests to be honest, unfiltered, and to provide the best content. And you see in Big Brother 3 with people like Roddy, who was so meticulous with his words and his phrasing because he was very conscious of the fact that the affected houseguests were watching, and you didn't really get his genuine thoughts in there. And as everyone started doing this, as the seasons continued on with this format, it would lead to a more boring product, and it meant that production would have less good material to work with in the dining rooms. So back to the book. June introduces the quote-unquote floater method, bouncing between alliances and strategy, dispersing information among them. Though, if anyone who watched Big Brother 4 Allison technically did it first, but of course, she's not going to get the credit because June won with this, since June adapted Allison's strategy and did it a lot better. And you even see hints of people trying to float in BB3 and BB2, and even other people attempt to do this in BB4. Anyways, this earns June the title of Big Brother 4 winner. A Korean American, she's also the series' first racialized winner. In addition to the jury house, production begins introducing casting twists to shake up the game. The first significant twist arrives in 2003 with Big Brother Force, The X Factor, which sees former romantic couples thrust back into each other's lives. Sheer horror washes over house guests' faces as their exes enter the front door to become their roommates for the next 82 days. For June, the twist completely changes the way she intended to play the game. Immediately after my ex came in the house, I totally lost my boner for manipulating guys and using my feminine wiles on them. She admits. I couldn't do it. And if you watch the episode, you definitely see that she's trying to flirt with Nathan and throw the bait out there for him to get, but he doesn't really bite it. And that was before G entered the house. BB4 executive producer John Kroll recalls how challenging it was to bring this concept to life. Several couples get back in touch during casting and must be cut from consideration. I also heard that there are rumors that Allison and Justin actually contacted one another and knew that they would be on the show, though that's alleged, or was buried heavily in the 2003 archives. And we all know they screw up from time to time because Tommy and Christine were able to make it into the BB21 house, and it's the same thing with Holly and Kat, and they all knew one another. Some, including Kroll, have misgivings about the X Factor. It led to some good TV, but I don't have fond memories of having to put people in that position, he says. This is a decade and a half before the Me Too movement, and new reality shows are being announced almost daily. The race to air the zaniest, most off the wall concept is in full swing. It's easy to understand how this idea came about. However, with today's hindsight, it's hard to imagine a TV program super repetitiously putting former intimate partners on a set together. One particular house guest, Scott, appears to become fixated on his ex, who appears visibly uncomfortable with his repeated advances. Eventually, Scott is ejected from the game due to aggressive behavior. And just from this last paragraph, you can definitely see why they stopped doing casting twists at around the late 2000s, though it brought for some a lot of good TV. And the fact that they're kind of comparing it to the Me Too movement is kind of disturbing. Though Scott is a very extreme example of this. But if you go on the other shows, like The Challenge, they continue doing this well after the heyday of the 2000s. Anyways, Season 5 takes the game to new heights by introducing identical twins who periodically swap places in the house. If they successfully deceive their fellow housemates for half the season, 35 days, they earn the chance to play as individuals. I gave it a 50-50 shot that it even works, recalls Sean Platt. But we did pull it off, and it was fucking awesome. The revelation of the twins' true identities leaves the house guest stunned. This was right after Jace decided to pick a fight with Adria, and then Marvin also got into it with Jace. Another season 5 twist involves Cowboy and Nokomis, two contestants who are long lost half siblings. However, the impact of this revelation fizzles when Cowboy uncovers the connection almost immediately. Some of the twists turn out to be great, and some turn out to be gimmicky, notes Platt. It's harder to know how they're going to play until they play. Incredibly, however, Cowboy evicts his half sister at the final four, choosing friendship over gameplay. I also have to mention how this affected Nokomis, since throughout the season she kept on complaining about how unfair the twist was, and the fact that Cowboy was the one who was cast first, and then they interviewed him, they talked about his family and how he doesn't know his father, so though he knew his father's name. They eventually found Cowboy's father. They interviewed him, trying to get him on the show. He said no, and then he suggested Nokomis to be on the show. But Nokomis was blind to this the entire time. And you know that Final Four meltdown she had on her last episode and her last few days of the season? They didn't really show her ranting about the production, flipping them off, and cursing them out due to the siblings twist. So there's that little insight there. Gameplay continues to evolve in Season 5 when Marvin, a mortician from South Carolina, persuades the HOH to nominate two non-targets for eviction, also known as pawns. This prevents the true target from having the opportunity to save themselves in their power of veto competition, thereby clearing an easy path for their eviction. And it's interesting that they gave Marvin the proper credit here. Now, Comes, who was HOH that week, is often credited with originating the plan, but Marvin maintains that it was his idea. Oh, so they actually interviewed Marvin for this. I don't know how the fuck they're trying to give it to Nicodemus. He says, I came up with the backdoor of Jace. That was me. The backdoor strategy will ultimately prompt a change in how POV players are selected, with the process becoming randomized in Big Brother 7. It says Big Brother 6 in the book, but they're wrong since James was backdoored in the exact same way as Jace was. And they changed it for All Stars. Big Brother 6 introduces the Summer of Secrets, where all 12 houseguests are secretly playing with someone they know. Similar to the previous season's long-lost siblings twist, contestants quickly catch on to the pairings. I knew before going in, claims contestant James. My original partner was a coworker, and there was nothing significant about that matchup. On night 1, suspicion arises about Howie and Rachel, with some assuming that they might be siblings. To revitalize the series, Season 6 introduces a new set on the CBS Radford lot, moving the house onto a soundstage previously occupied by embassy soap Passions. Oh my god, that's my show when I was younger! And it's interesting that they used the Passion set. That's so, I think, cool. Anyways, a cement wall is demolished to create an entrance for an outdoor courtyard. Sticking with the Summer of Secrets theme, the BB6 house is full of surprises. Rachel, the first HOH, receives a series of cryptic clues that led her to a hidden bedroom, only accessible through a break-in wall. Beginning with Big Brother 6, each summer the house starts to become more thematic. The house itself is a character, says Kroll. Like the Amityville house or other great houses of literature, it really does have a material impact on the show. BB-8 features an Alice in Wonderland themed house. Here, houseguests encounter rooms with intriguing spatial distortions, such as a miniature bedroom accessible only through a tiny door, juxtaposed with a neighboring room with oversized furniture and shoulder height beds. From seasons 3 to 5, the creative minds behind the designs of the Big Brother house are Joe Schaffner and Joe Stewart. They are multi Emmy Award winners and two of the most sought after production designers in Hollywood. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Schaffner and Stewart designed the sets for Friends, Two and a Half Men, and The Big Bang Theory. Schaffner and Stewart's job is to imagine what the set should look like. This process involves conceptualizing the set through sketches and paper models. A decorator is then tasked with bringing the vision to life. On Big Brother, it's very much about the spacing and the placement of things so the camera can catch everything, explains Schaffner. He recalls the peskiest part of working on the show was the excessive fixation on even the smallest design elements. He remembers endless debate over the placement of each plate and throw pillow. The layout of the room often doesn't change, but oh lordy, we can talk about the shape of the sofas till the cows come home. Stylistically, from seasons 3 to 5, the duo aim for a fun resort in the Catskills vibe. After this, however, each house will have its own unique theme. The production design team is skeletal during Schaffner's time on the show. He raises this concern to executives. You need to make this an honest union show, he says to them, as opposed to working under what we used to call the videotape contract. Schaffner acknowledges the show eventually becomes around the time he leaves. It did evolve. Co-EP Don Woman grew with us because he also had the realization that it was no longer a variety show, says Schaffner. It was building a very complex environment visually. Schaffner and Stewart are working on anywhere between 5 and 7 shows at any given time. Since Big Brother is not as lucrative as other projects, they depart in 2004 and bequeath the job to their employee, Scott Story, who remains with the program to this day. Story is also a longtime production designer of America's Funniest Home Videos. The earliest of Big Brother are marked by unbridled creativity, unique twists, and innovative gameplay. Yet, as the winds of change sweep through the landscape of reality TV, the series will take on a new, more predictable iteration. Okay, so I didn't know there was a lot of this behind the scenes stuff with the set designers, and it kind of explains why there's so much of a shift between BP5 and BP6 when it comes to the new house, the set designs, the graphics, and all of that. So it explains why the original people left. And I didn't really notice that there wasn't a set theme for the houses in BP3 to 5, though we all know there are definitely themes in BB6 onwards. So that's a little interesting tidbit. And it's interesting that this kind of concludes the classic era from BB2 to BB7, though this chapter really didn't talk about BB7.